Hello, everyone, and welcome to Answer the Call. Today's topic, Star Citizen now versus later. So many arguments are made to people like myself who want Star Citizen to just be better, that we have to have patience because they're developing systems and things and so on and so forth that will make the game better. That is 100% true, right? I argue there should be more focus on the now than there has been. But I want to be very clear what my definition of focus or what my definition of development on the now versus later is. I'm going to start out with what I'm not saying. Let's improve cargo. Well, they are. And the ways that they're improving cargo is with physicalized inventories, components, all sorts of things like that that are in progress. So cargo decks is an example of something that has been put in the game and is not being utilized. And they seem to have, in my opinion, a super clear vision of the steps that it will take to get us to where cargo decks do what we would like them to do, which is like store components and store material there to sell later or whatever, right? Mission givers, stuff like that. The kind of stuff that I am talking about is making sure that if you put a system into the game, that you build upon it. That is what they're doing with cargo, in my opinion. A place where they maybe haven't done that is with the black market economy. What happened to that? Another place, sort of mining. And a lot of you may not know this, but a Star Citizen developer came to our Discord and asked us about what we thought about some changes they were thinking of making to mining. And some of those changes were about scanning and stuff like that. Another one that I think could be built upon a little bit is just generally the mission system. And I'm more here to share my concerns rather than this is what CIG should do. I am in no place to tell what CIG what they should do at all. I play the game, and I would like to play the game more. I talked about this on my live stream yesterday. This is going to be a bit of a longer monologue, okay? But I really need to make sure that people understand what I mean by now versus later. I believe that with the current experience in Star Citizen, that when you jump in game, you really don't have a clear direction of what you should do, where you should go. There is a starting point. The end game doesn't really exist because the values of which components change your experience isn't great enough to where you would strive to get a certain component or something like that. And earning money in game is quite easy. Components aren't that expensive, right? So these are the type of things where I think that attention should be paid. A Helix mining laser or something like that should be incredibly expensive, and something a miner should have to grind towards and have a difficult time mining rocks until they get that thing, right? Like that should be the end game laser. Things like that. Those are the type of examples that I'm trying to give on the, hey, spend some time developing now and focusing on what the experience the player has now versus later. So where my concerns really lie, and this is the last thing I'll say before we bring on the callers, reputation, the flight experience, FPS experience, economy experience, and looting. Looting is something that's on the horizon. It's on the roadmap. Selling that loot on the roadmap. Also on the roadmap is what is going to initially be in those containers. Medical supplies, water, food. Nothing of value. Nothing that when you open the box, you go, oh my goodness, I got this thing. Right? That's the type of now that I mean. Is that once that looting is in, consistently add things and build upon that and what you're going to put in that container. I understand that after there's looting, there's probably other tech that needs to be worked on to bring it to the next level, but there shouldn't be tech that needs to be worked on to have an exciting moment in the game, have an end game component, something like that, right? So that's where I'm at with that kind of development. Same with reputation. Every quarter, reputation should be built upon, and the mission system, things like that, right? That is what I'm talking about, focusing on the now versus the later. They're still able to add features in, but work on the features that you currently have and make the game a little bit more robust and a little bit more enjoyable to play. Last thing, I know this game is an alpha. I know this game doesn't have a lot of features. I know what I'm saying may take the game longer to finish. Is Star Citizen ever going to finish? It's not. We all know that. It is year 8 that we've been playing this game. The 8th year we've been playing this game. There is no reason why we shouldn't be able to play it more and enjoy it more. I don't think I'm being unreasonable here, but we have a full call list, and I'm excited to bring some of these guys on. So let's start out with Celamorn, our first caller. Celamorn, how you doing, man?
Hey, good morning, Mike. I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
I'm good. So what are you thinking on this subject? Am I out of line?
Well, I think I agree with you. I would like to see more now rather than leaving it all until later. But I think it's worth doing a thought exercise. Let's suppose you're driving, you see a car stranded on the side of the road, you pull over, help them change the tire. Turns out it's Chris Roberts. And he says, "Hey, I'll give you one favor. What do you want?" What feature would we look for to get implemented now?
Looting.
Looting?
Yep.
I think I agree with you on that. But so what would that's on the roadmap, isn't it?
Yeah. It's on the roadmap, but it's not done now.
Good point. So would you just accelerate the development of that particular feature?
I would.
I guess my question is, where are the weak points? Where is it that they're failing to deliver stuff now that we would prefer to see them working on more?
Okay, this is why I tried to explain myself more. And I'll try to explain myself again to you. Is I'm not asking them to bring more features in more quickly. I'm asking them to keep working and making sure that the features that we currently have do work. I see somebody typed in chat, it's Rogue Phoenix. I don't normally respond to chat during the podcast, but this is a perfect example. Is we have derelicts in the game. But what you find at the derelict, and there's things that you could find at these derelicts, what you find there, like a box or something, has no value. You never go to a derelict and have a different experience than than the last one. Oh, I only found a few credits at this one. I found 10,000 credits or 100,000 or 200,000 credits worth of material at this one, right? That doesn't exist. So that's the type of now that I'm talking about. There's no reason why they couldn't.
That would really be a whole new gameplay loop.
No, it wouldn't. It would just improve the one you have.
Well, let me rephrase that. That would introduce, with the addition of a very small change, a whole different way to enjoy the game, because that opens up. Now we have a reason to go searching the planets and the moons.
Yeah. And again, I'll respond to chat. Somebody said, because the boxes have 12 units in them and they're only worth 50 UEC. You can create something that is 12 units worth 200,000 that is only in those boxes, only in that place. There is no reason why those things can't be created. Give me like,
so another example might be the special cargo types that they added for Xenothreat. They could add an additional one where every unit sells for 100,000 credits. That'd be a very easy change, and just have it sitting at random locations.
Yeah, and it's a super rare spawn, and that's really
Yeah.
it. And again, this doesn't drastically change your Star Citizen experience. You're still only earning money, and the money has no value in reality. It's going to get wiped at some point. Blah 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 blah. But wouldn't that just be a nice experience to have occasionally in the game, where it's not the exact same thing? You don't know the exact payout that you're going to get every time. It's going to be random.
A little
Sometimes
bit
you get a good one.
random,
Sometimes,
yeah.
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 It's the little
So-
things like that I'm talking about, not these big drastic add salvaging. I'm not telling anybody to finish the game or add salvaging. I'm telling you have experiences in the game that are pretty cool, but they're not fun enough.
So I'm primarily a bounty hunter. I like doing the FPS. I like doing the space combat. I haven't. I think I mentioned last week that I don't do mining and trading because of the 30K issues. But something that I would love to see get implemented is an expansion of the FPS missions. Currently, we only have really bunker missions, and I think there's a couple other places where you'll find, we've got the caves now. That's something that's been added recently, and I'm very happy about that. But I'd like to see surface dwelling NPCs. I'd like to be able to pull out my AO3 sniper rifle and shoot somebody in the head from a kilometer away. You can't do that in a cave or in a bunker. But all that is dependent, apparently, on them figuring out nav meshes for planetary surfaces, which I'm not sure where it's got positioned in the roadmap, but I would love to see that prioritized.
Oh man, I don't know if I'm 100% correct, but I think we saw that was worked on or completed in this past week's monthly report. But I don't know. Chad will probably correct me.
Well, if that's the case, then that instantly opens up a tremendous amount of additional combat gameplay. We can have NPCs in Nova tanks and infantry on the surface around points of interest, around the bunkers, force us to bring in our own tanks and take out their ground defenses before we can actually get into the actual bunkers.
Yeah.
And we could have dynamic events where there's a ground assault going on a point of interest. Maybe Lorville is being attacked by Xeno threat or something. That would be very exciting if that's the case.
Yeah. And that I'm just thinking, and we've done a podcast like this before, but the thing that I really want to hit home with is that the response to this will always be just be patient. They're working on it, right? Those kind of things. Because anytime you have a hey, please fix this problem with Star Citizen, they'll always say, well, it will be resolved with this great grand tech that takes us 16 years to finish.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. And at this point, for me, that's not good enough. People played DayZ in the state that it was forever. But the reason why was because the loop that was, and it was a horrible game from a buggy standpoint, right? But the reason why
the Arma 2 mod, or are you talking the standalone?
Both. I think the standalone probably was incredibly buggy, right? But people played that all the time because the loop was good enough. I'm sitting here arguing that the loop isn't good enough, or the loops aren't good enough in Star Citizen to warrant you dealing with a lot of the bugs. Some people do. People will mine and cargo hauled endlessly forever for whatever reason. But for me, in my opinion, it's just not where even DayZ was back then, where it was hey, you had a character that started with nothing, and then at the end you were a Chad, and then you got into a fight and you died or whatever, and then you start over again. you don't really have that experience in Star Citizen. So I'd like to see, with very small steps and with just building on what we already have and not having to do some great grand thing in order to get there, kind of create that experience in Star Citizen. Maybe not the DayZ experience, but something,
Yeah.
you know.
I think a lot of it is really just missing small pieces of tech, and not big tech, but just little pieces of tech. Like, for example, the ability to sell stuff. We can go out, we can get our bounties, and then we buy modules. But then we just have stuff sitting in our inventory. I've got something like 50 different assault rifles that I've looted off of dead NPCs
Yeah.
over the last year and a half. I can't do anything with them. I don't need that many. I
We have
probably need 5 of each, but
perfect example
we can't
then
sell
for you.
them.
The perfect example
Sales.
for you would not even
Yep.
be selling, it would be looting. And it would be looting weapon components that really mattered to your experience. And I think we're getting there, right? Like mag stripping, ammo. So if you have mag stripping, maybe you can have larger magazines, right? Things like that. Like, these are the things that I'm not saying they have to do right away, but that's how you should build. Like, that's how I would like to see them build on what they're building. So there's things that are on the roadmap, like they're getting there. So it's not like, hey, you need to do this. They are doing it, but just keep building on it. You have a component system. Bring in some more components that change the experience of an FPS player, right? They're doing a lot of it with mining.
Focusing lens for a laser rifle to make it increase the DPS a little bit.
Yeah, or just like in general, better ammo, better recoil, better
explosive ammo. Yep.
Yeah,
subsonics.
Like, different things like that. So like those are the things that you can build upon in the Star Citizen experience when they get mag stripping. But what Star Citizen tends to do, and this is where I say the now versus the later, is they will put in mag stripping, but then never add new ammo types, or not add enough ammo types. Or they'll put in the ability to put components on your weapons, but never put in enough where they matter or make a difference, right? That's what I'm saying is the now. Let's focus on the now. Hey, it's probably time to add a few new, cooler components to our FPS weapons, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's where my mentality is.
I think my general feeling is that they are doing that. They are improving individual gameplay loops progressively.
Give an example, because I would argue they don't.
Well, FPS bunker missions. They added new NPC kill missions in caves. I mean, that's a perfect example of a stale gameplay loop that got an update, and now we've got more interesting stuff to do. And just my observation from the last week or so that I've been playing, the caves don't seem to always be exactly the same. There seems to be a little bit of variation in the caverns. But I mean that's one example. I'm sure Chad will figure out some other.
Chad's not agreeing with you, and I don't necessarily disagree with them. And like the taking a bunker mission and putting it. The taking a bunker mission and putting it in a new location isn't a new experience necessarily.
It's a little bit new. It's not earth-shattering.
But for you, because this is all just your opinion and versus my opinion, whatever. For you, does that make you enjoy the game more and play it more?
It does.
Okay,
it does. But I agree with you that I'd like to see the pace of updates to the existing features increase. I'd like to see more than just one update per quarter. Maybe that's what they need to do. Maybe they need to have some of these smaller features updated on a monthly basis.
I don't know if that's possible. I don't know. See, the thing, I'm not a game developer, so it's like the pacing of things. I don't know if I'm qualified to comment on that. It's just, but what should be prioritized? I think as a player, you could say, hey, this is important to me. And that's sort of what I'm trying to say is these things and the experience of starting with little and building up more than just seeing your UEC account go up. Because at some point you have the ships that you have the components that you have, and you don't lose them. And that's an understandable experience now with 30Ks, bugs, dying for no reason, so on.
So let me ask you a question. How would we improve something like the mining gameplay?
Well, I can explain exactly what they've said to me and what I've suggested to them. And I think they're at least going to prototype what I've suggested to them. And I don't know if it'll ever make it into the game. I posted a tweet the other day, if anybody saw that. This was in relation to this. The developer who works on the distribution of ore came to our Discord and asked us a few questions. First thing, they're considering only mining ships are going to be able to find ore. So if you're a rock miner, you can't find ore in a cutlass, right? And so that was like a concern that we expressed, because that's kind of weird. And then we talked about the distribution of ore. And I said I would much rather have the ability to search for a long time, but when I found something, it was worth it, right? So a big node of gold, a big node of titanium, a big node of whatever, quantanium, right? Like 10 rocks, all valuable. So then you get to that and you need to ask for your friend's help, or it makes the mole viable. And because the understanding is that I feel like I'm taking up too much of your time, so I'm going to go as fast as I can, that you have a choice. There's only so many entities that they could put in the game. So right now they're spread out pretty evenly, right? And if you put them together, that means that you're not going to find as many things out there. And the sentiment from the community when I asked, because I told him what my opinion was, and he asked me, well, is that what everyone else thinks? And I'm like, I can't speak for everyone else. So I just put out the tweet, and there was a Spectrum post, and a lot of people said, why not both? Well, you can't have both because you can't have that many entities. But the trickle and then a big node would be ideal. So that's a way to improve it, in my opinion, is to improve the scanning and the way in which you find these things. The other way would be to make larger rocks, more difficult rocks, have them have different characteristics from each other, where the mining experience is the same, basically, if you're mining quantanium or if you're mining titanium.
So you're the new ore types?
No, ore types can be the same, but ore types could change in characteristic of how much power you need to put into them, that kind of thing.
Okay. Well, I think my time's probably up, but another question that I would ask if we had time would be about delivery missions and what ideas you might have for that.
Go for it, because I took up a lot of your time.
Okay, so what ideas would you have for improving delivery missions?
Oh, that's easy. Reputation. Just use the reputation, man. Yeah. Just build upon it with reputation. I think we've been talking about that for a long time, and that's basically one of the main reasons why I'm having this podcast is they put reputation in, the next patch they put the UI in. What are you going to do the next patch? The most logical thing is just use reputation. You start doing small, tiny delivery missions, and then move up to ones that travel you from planet to planet, station to station, things like that, right?
Planet Express.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I think I'm still of the opinion that I agree that we need more stuff to do now. So I agree with you on that. And I would like to see the pace of the small features increase. I'd like to see more visibility on the small quality of life improvements and the developments of the existing features. But I don't think that it's not happening. I think it's just not happening as fast as they could.
That's fair.
And not quite as fast as we'd like it to.
Yeah. I
I
think
don't. I
that's
don't think
super
we
fair.
need a 500% increase in speed. I think we need maybe like a 50% or a 20% increase
Yeah, I
because it's
agree.
happening.
Yeah, and that's like what I really wanted to point out too is that like for some aspects of the game it's happening and for others it isn't. Like
Yeah,
I mean, one of the examples I gave during the live stream was and Celamorn, is it okay if I let you go or is there anything else you want to maybe add before I
totally
do?
okay. Thank
Okay.
you for having me on, sir. How's the chair?
I love it. I love it. It's super comfortable. It's like my back I had a lot of like shoulder pain and it's not as bad as it's like improving. So
I
yeah.
might have to get myself one of those.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
they're up there in price, but I so far I like it. And then this week I'll put on the sticks, so I'm looking forward to that.
nice.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
All right, all right. So like just a little bit about that reference of like the pacing of things and what we might want and all that kind of stuff. Is I'm not asking them to finish the game. I'm asking them to make the experience a little bit more enjoyable because I know the game is going to be buggy and I know the game is going to take a long time. And I think I can speak for 99% of Star Citizens is it's changed the way we look at every other video game we play and we just want to play a video game of some sort inside the Star Citizen universe. Right? So with that, that's sort of what I'm asking with the current experiences that we have is focus a little bit more on the now and a little bit less on the later while still focusing on the later because I fully understand this game is an alpha and features need to come in, not just work on mining all the time. I mean, I think that's been one of our arguments as well. All right, bringing in our next caller, Death Trooper. What's up, man? Can you hear me?
Hey,
Hello, hello, hello.
hello, hello. Do you hear me?
So I do. I hear you just fine. What are your thoughts on all this?
Uh, it's. I gotta put this thing on mute.
Okay.
So my thoughts. It's a really hard topic and it's an easy topic to talk about because one, I'm not a game developer. I've been
Exactly.
following this project since 2016, but even further back before that. And I've seen the progress. We've been there. We've gone through the good, bad, and the ugly. Now, with the current state of the game, there's a lot of stuff in the game that can be used to better the game itself.
Yes.
Primarily, one of the main things that I always talk with my community is I'll bring a good example: Xenothreat. Xenothreat was a great event. It brought people together. There was PvP elements. There was people playing as the Xenos, even though it wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. But one of the things that we talked about is like it would have been nice that if let's just say the Starfare, if we had the Starfare nearby, it can refuel and rearm the ships while in combat instead of having to go to the station. And one of the main things was they could just fake that. It can give the certain ships certain mechanics, but just fake it. It doesn't have to be something completely fleshed out to give us gameplay. And that was one of the main things we always talked about. It's like it would take forever for us to go from the station back to rearm and back into combat, and it would have changed the gameplay a lot more. And another topic, and I'm sorry if I'm skipping around, but they could have dropped a counter mission for the Xeno threat, asking from like say Techa, I think Techa Pacheco, saying, "Hey, Xeno threat's requesting support. It's a missionary mission. Go help them out if you choose to, but know that there is a backfall. You can go to prison." And that's one of the main things I always talk about. There's game components in there that can be used. It doesn't have to be completely fleshed out. It's just implementing it, even if it's fake.
That is where I've been in your seat before where it's like, "Hey, just fake it." But that is where you get the argument of now you're sacrificing possibly too much now for the later. Again, we're not game developers, we don't really know, but the argument is from them consistently, we don't want to do work now if we have to redo it later. That's why my suggestions are more on the things that are already in the game and just adding more of that in a lot of cases rather than okay, let's figure out some broken way that the Starfarer can work. You know what I'm saying? And then, well, they're going to completely have to take that out and then replace it with something else later. That's where the argument of now versus later, I err on the side of later. So like cargo, that's something that has been driving me nuts forever. Why can't we just transfer cargo from one ship to another? Mining, why can't we just fake it? Well, they want to do it right the first time. I hope right. We know it's going to be buggy and a mess, but right the first time, and then never have to do it again, and then they can add to it when they feel like it.
I completely agree with you with that.
Okay.
But it's like, let's just put the mole and let's just throw the caterpillar in there into the mix.
Okay.
If you're mine, why can't we fake it to where we can fakely transfer cargo from the mole over to the caterpillar and have a game loop that way? It doesn't have to be something physicalized.
Again, we're not game developers, but I think you make it sound easier than it is.
Yeah, it's everything. That's the thing is that with the community, we make things seem so simple when there's a lot of stuff that we don't know that it entails. It's easy for us as a community to say, well, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? I understand their point of not wanting to spend too much time on something that could eventually is going to be replaced. But if those mechanics that they're working on, what does it take to just fake it just a little bit to have it just implemented, just to have a community interested in certain game mechanics?
Yeah.
Because it goes back to the same thing of, hey, we're not game developers, but this is just our suggestions of the community to keep us engaged. Because the only time during the community that people are actually heavily in the game is they're either doing Invictus or any other event that they bring in. Xenothreat was one of the biggest ones that a lot of people jumped in my community that we haven't seen for months.
That was never a ship sale. That was the one thing that like wasn't a ship sale that really brought people to the game.
Exactly, and that kept everybody entertained for maybe a week, and that could have been a system that they could have kept in the game and said, okay, we'll trigger this game system, I guess, every time something that in the reputation gets triggered. Say too many satcoms get taken down. Okay, well, let's trigger that event. But like you keep saying, we're not game devs. We don't know why those things are not kept in there if they've already been implemented.
Yeah, agreed. I just think it's extremely unreasonable when a player that really wants to enjoy Star Citizen and is enthusiastic about enjoying Star Citizen, someone telling them that you just need to be patient. How long is acceptable for me to become impatient? 8 years is where my limit, and I was impatient on year 2, so but 8 years is where like I'm really starting to hit the limit of these things, right? So of looking at it and seeing features put in the game, and then, well, they're in, they work, quote unquote, but we're not going to continue to work on them until we get other things done, blah, 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 whatever. That is where I start to get frustrated with the project.
Exactly. Like one of my biggest frustrations right now, I've been trying for the past week, trying to get certain gameplays to work in the game. It just seems like they introduce something new and they just forget about it.
Like what?
It doesn't get the Idris mission.
Okay.
The Idris mission, like what's that guy's name? Miles?
Or Miles Eckert?
I think it's Miles Eckert. He doesn't work right now. You try, like, one of the main things for me was I got to get this mission, the Idris mission, to have a community interested. I was like, hey, I got the Idris mission. Let's all jump in. Let's have fun, and let's go that way. But because that system right now is broken, there is no fun. Everybody right now kind of goes to the game loop of what I call the default gameplay, which is mining and trading. But even mining and trading, there's a risk.
Yeah.
And it just goes from there. It all has to do with server stability, but it also, from what I've seen, is that the server stability tends to vary from player to player. But even then, if those game loops are broken, even though we do see them fixing it and patching it, it just seems like they prioritize certain aspects of the game because they know something else is coming in that's going to eventually fix it.
And herein lies the problem where I rushed, I rushed my monologue a little bit to get to you guys, where this is the main point of everything here. And I think the main point of failure and the main point of failure from CIG and the main point of pain for the backer is that the roadmap is not a roadmap. The roadmap is a syllabus or an inventory list of what they're gonna try to work on during each patch. It doesn't tell you that, okay, I want cargo to be good. Well, in order for cargo to be good, there are these 12 things that need to be completed for you to see cargo fully fleshed out. I want mining to be good. Well, there's these 12 other things that need to happen for mining to be fully fleshed out. And that's where the roadmap really fails, is we look at it and say, they're not prioritizing correctly. When in reality, if you sit there and you really, really, really listen, it does seem to me that they have a direction, a plan, and they're actively working that plan. It may not be as fast as we want. It may not be in the patch that we want it to be in because it got moved, some feature, whatever. But it does really feel like there's a plan. And when we see something like a trolley come in and medical gameplay get pushed back, we go, they're not prioritizing right.
Exactly, and
You know?
and then you probably remember this when Bartender got introduced. That was the biggest complaint at that point. Was like, why do we need a bartender that works? Well, it goes back to everything that they introduced into the live gameplay. It all has to go for Squadron 42. Pretty much, Squadron 42 is primary. We're secondary. We get the scraps, the leftovers, or whatever you want to call it. It's just we're just the live right now is starting to feel like it's just a placeholder for everything the Squadron 42 needs. Which brings me to the next point: the bangle. That bangle was introduced with the previous event, and they even said it themselves that they had to do a complete rework of the bangle because it was too, how can I put this? It was too depending with a lot of game systems that the servers cannot handle. But yet the systems are already in place. And it goes back to this whole thing of a lot of players, a lot of new players say, well, why do I need to buy a capital ship or even a hammerhead if nobody's going to be able to seed it? Well, if they faked it with a bangle, why can't we get like server blades added to the hammerhead and use that, but just as a temporary placeholder? It doesn't have to be some magic thing. I think I'm jumping off topic here, so you could bring me back if I'm going a little too overboard.
You're not. You are, but you aren't. You would basically, what you're asking for is them to just add a component slot to a turret on a ship and have that component slot be extremely expensive. And when the ship dies or gets reclaimed, then that module will go away. In that sense, that seems relatively simple. But now you're asking 500 different ships in a server to have this AI capability at all times that the server probably can't handle. So I don't, that's like a whole other thing. I don't know. I don't know if you're being unreasonable with that. That's another, it goes back to like, hey, not a game developer, don't know,
Exactly. The only, like, I can say, what I can envision them to doing, let's just say like the bunker missions. Let's just say they have a bunker that you have to clear out with your buddies, and then there's only a certain amount of blades or computer modules you can get from this location. But here's the thing: if you raid those locations, one, you could get a crime stat, and two, once you install those drives, you pretty much have a target on your ship, which means everybody and anyone can go to and find you and kill you. If they kill you, there's two things that can happen. One, they can salvage your ship, and two, or version 2, they'll spawn back at that location, and you can go back there and fight for it again. And that gives everybody something to do. But like you said, it's like, we can say this, but is it really going to happen?
Yeah, I don't know, But it does just come down to what is now. Like, it also is like, what is now? Is now the next few years?
Yeah,
I argue yes.
I'm with you. I'm with you completely. with you 100%. It's like when people, there's like new players coming in. It's like, oh, I bought myself a Perseus. I was like, when do you think it's going to come out? Is it going to come out this year? I'm like, probably not. I would probably give it 3 years because that seems to be like the norm for a lot of the ships. If it's not a straight flying ship,
And
it's usually a 3 year window.
I bought a Banu merchantman 6 years ago. You know.
Oh yeah, I have a CCU in my hangar that's worth $15 and it increased recently.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that, but it's like, how long is it going to sit there before we can actually get it?
Yeah.
But yet they keep pushing out new ships. I understand that they do that as a business to keep the community interested, but it's not the ships that make the game, it's the players and the game that makes the game.
Yeah, I think the argument here that you bring up with Invictus, or not Invictus, with Xenothreat and stuff like that, is I don't think the players are necessarily asking you to put in salvaging or refueling or any major feature that we know is going to take a lot of time and work on, but give players a few more tools to enjoy the experience that they currently have, right?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to get to, is that
Yeah.
we have the tools. It's just those tools are not being used.
I would argue we don't have enough tools, but yeah, I agree as well.
Yeah, it's like it's hard to be in a position as a backer, because you brought this up several times, is that we have this mentality of give me, give me, give me,
Yeah.
and they're giving us stuff in game, but if it's broken or it's not working, we get frustrated. Like you just had that issue right now with your mole. You spent that much time on that mole getting all this quantanium and all this stuff, and just to lose it in a matter of seconds.
And for no fault of my own.
Exactly.
That's just desync though.
Yeah, that's a server performance issue, but it's one of those things where everybody's hoping on the holy grail that is server meshing, and everybody thinks server meshing is going to be a specific thing, but you got to realize it's going to be a paced kind of thing where you're not going to get everything off the back. It's going to take time, and that's what I think a lot of us are starting to have issues, is the time, the when.
Yeah. We know, like, this isn't an impatience issue, is what I'm trying to address. This is I know I need to be patient, so give me something to enjoy while I'm being patient. I know that sounds contradictory, but I really don't think it is. Because I am in this for the long haul, and this is going to be a long haul.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it goes back to like myself. I'm a concierge. I'm already too deep into this game, and I just keep getting myself deeper and deeper. So to the point where I don't even want to check how much money I've already spent. But it goes back to a lot of us, like for me specifically, I was hoping theaters, when they announced theaters, the whole thing with theaters of war, when they were bringing it up, they're like, I was hoping they would have brought something that big to keep us entertained until this whole thing just gets fleshed out. But fortunately, it's a game within a game.
Yeah, I mean, man, if Theaters of War was like something, I feel like it would be a lot easier to enjoy. I don't know. I don't know if that's true, because I'm more of an economy player. I think other people would really want that to be a thing, but I think that anything like it just comes down to Theaters of War is just another thing that would just give our attention a little bit of something else to do while we're waiting for the actual experience. It would just make it easier. It's just like any other thing we discussed here, right?
Yes, exactly. And it's another thing too, is that because of the lack of content in the game, recently me and my community, even I've seen Captain Burks bringing this up. They started jumping into Arena Commander or Star Marine.
Yeah.
Star Marine, even though it's buggy, we're still in there goofing around because we're getting better performance out of Star Marine than we actually are in the PU.
Yikes. Because Star Marine's a mess.
Yeah, it's you gotta find the little glitches to get that thing going. But once you figure it out, it's like you're entertained for 2-3 hours straight with no 30Ks.
Yeah, it's true. Well, all right, Death, we're kind of coming up to the end of the call. Is there anything else you would like to add or suggest?
No, not really. I just appreciate you having me on. And I mean, the only thing is, is that we just have to be patient. That's the hardest part about everything is with this development is we just have to be patient and see where this goes. I mean, they could surprise us here in August when we have the event, but we shall see. Hopefully, it's not something that's just a plug and play and here you go. This is what you're gonna get 3 years from now.
Yeah. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I I just hope I'm not being impatient by asking for a few things so I can be more patient.
Yeah, and
I,
that's the
I
thing is
don't
that
think that's unreasonable, but it might be.
it's kind of hard for the older backers. With the newer backers coming in, it's a little bit easier for them because they haven't been here long enough.
Yeah.
They see the bugginess, but they don't see the stuff that came before per se.
Yeah. Yep. Well, all right, Death. I guess we'll let you go, buddy. Thank you so much. And you stream on Twitch, YouTube. You're saying you're a community, so I assume you're a content creator. I don't follow much Star Citizen content creation these days. So, where can people find you? And yeah, give yourself a little plug.
I'm not really a content creator. I'm just another person in the verse. That's
So,
pretty
what do you
much
mean
I
you're
do.
a community?
Well, I did have a community until it recently died. So that goes back to the whole way the game is that people they're interested in a certain amount of time, then just your basically your guild dies and
Ah,
until
okay.
the next patch.
Yep.
So I mean, I have my time and fun when they're around, but it goes back is their gameplay.
I feel you. I feel you. I haven't done any org stuff with my stuff in a long time either. Because it's you can't ask people to want to play this experience, which is why I'd like to be able to one day. So yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. All right, Death. We'll let you go though. It'll get better. Just hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah, hope so. All
All right, man. Talk to you soon.
right, thank you.
All right, our next caller is Dak Tannen. Dak, can you hear me, buddy?
Yep, I can hear you. How are my levels?
Perfect. You never have to worry about your levels, and I can
Okay.
deal with those pretty easily. Might bring you up a
Awesome.
little bit.
But yeah, I really like what some of the things that Death Trooper was just saying about things breaking. And that's one of those things that, like you said, I wish they had a bit more of keeping things like you said. You add a feature, and instead of it letting it rock there until it eventually just completely stops working, keeping it going so that it stays functional with each patch, as well as adding just that little bit of extra, maybe if it's just one thing a patch, to make it feel like, hey, there's a little bit new freshness in, you know, let's say trade, or there's like you said, one new item to trade in. Even if it's not anything big, but one item. If you let's say you had a whole bunch of items to trade with, and one new item came in that changed the dynamic of where people wanted to go and what people wanted to trade. For people to trade, that would be interesting. I'm not much of a trader, so you would have to answer that more so than me. But if you
Yeah.
had a new item that was hard to find, or maybe it was only available at certain times of day, or a certain something, make it so that you had to figure out, well, when can I buy more of this, and how long does it stay in stock? I mean, minor things, just things that you could probably change on a text file somewhere. Not that I know much about that, but
Yeah. I
feels
mean,
like a lot of stuff dies on the vine.
yeah. And it's always what it feels like to us, or it just we are expressing here what is important. Like everybody that has called is clearly someone who plays the game
Mhm.
day in and day out, and yeah, well, enjoy talking about the game. I don't know about you. I don't want to talk about Star Citizen. I don't want to talk about
I
where it's
The only
going.
people I talk about it with are people that have already they're deep space heads like me, where they love any space game or any sci-fi. And I have one guy that's like on the conversion because I've been getting him into like Mech Warrior stuff. So
But
I
what do you
I know
talk
he would
about?
eventually join. We only talk about where it is and where it isn't, more or less,
Yeah.
and that's about it.
And imagine talking about where you're going to go, what you're going to do that night, what we're working towards. Those like that is where it needs to go, and it needs to go there in a
Yeah.
simple way in order
And one of
because
the
there's
things that I would
like
be I agree with you on how you want the game to be. And the only reason why I say I can agree with you right now is because Star Citizen, Chris Roberts and them had wanted to make noises like the game's sort of soft released. And you can't say the game is sort of soft release when it's not really, it doesn't feel like it's being maintained.
yeah, you can't call it a live service when it's not being serviced.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
have to service the features that are available as well as add new ones for it to be a live service, in my
Exactly, and I
opinion.
feel like they don't have enough people keeping the parts that are there because if everything that was there was working sort of sort of better than it is now, not a whole lot better. I don't need it to be perfect, but just sort of I've never completed a mission. I have never once successfully completed a mission and gotten paid in this game. And I love the
Well,
game and I'm
that's
still trying.
that's weird.
Yeah. There's always an interruption. There's always the mission bugs out in the middle and I can't finish it, and then you just have to find something else to do. Like you just had this situation with your mining incident. That was like, a self-created mission because you weren't mining it for somebody else.
Yeah.
But when you're reliant on the I'm not sure whether it would be commands or AI or whatever it is, that next step in the quest doesn't happen or breaks part way, or you like so you get stuck in your seat. There's a number of things that happen that kind of kill your potential to finish a mission that takes hours to complete. There's so many potential, and that's if you don't even include somebody possibly shooting you or trolling you and running into your ship on the pad.
But the bugs don't matter if
If there's
you
more interesting little things to do, I agree.
the bugs don't matter if after you experience a bug and it ruins the experience that you just had in that moment, that you don't want to get back up on the horse and try again. Star
Exactly.
Citizen's experience is so poor that with the bugs you have no choice.
It's demoralizing.
It's demoralizing because you weren't you didn't have a reason to do what you were doing anyway. You were doing it
Exactly.
just to do it, and then
Just to see.
yeah, so it's that's
Because I've
the
played a lot of
the
buggy
issue.
games in my time, and I sometimes you even enjoy some of the bugs because it's quaint or it's silly and something like somebody will ragdoll like even if it's the quest guy you need to pick up an item off his corpse and he's ragdolled into the ceiling and he's twitching. It's funny. Your mission's screwed, but sometimes it's just funny and you laugh a bit. There's too many that are just too demoralizing that I can't laugh at a lot of them anymore. When it's all you and your friends and you're screwing around and you don't have any particular goal, then it's funny. But if you've been trying to succeed at something and you just can't, that part of it is where my biggest concern is that they can't maintain a sandbox as small as this is right now. And that worries me because this game is a lot less complicated than it's going to be. And they're struggling to maintain this small. I feel like when they say, "Oh, we don't want to have to redo things again," and I understand that idea, but they redo everything every
You're
anyway.
gonna have to
It's like
anyway.
every game, every ship has been re-released how many times?
The
Every time
gold
there's a new damage
standard is
system,
a
they re-release every ship.
yeah. Now we're
It's
going
like
into the gold standard. When the best part about the gold standard is there isn't even like armor or anything on. Like this isn't the gold
yes,
standard.
yet we still have. You're going to have to reinvent all those ships again, and yes, I would rather it be like I feel like they need to start looking at No Man's Sky. I just saw an update where they did a graphical overhaul of the whole game, and the game's moving in baby steps, but it's moving towards what they originally promised, even though it's in baby steps. They keep their scope small, they add that next new thing, they polish it, make sure it works, and then the next time they update, they don't break the thing they just added in. And that's something I think Star Citizen is going to have to start moving in that direction. I mean, unless the big event in August is Squadron 42 has some kind of an alpha that we'll be able to play to keep people
Oh God,
pacified.
just stop.
I doubt that.
Just
I know that's
stop.
not going to happen. I'm just saying that to be ridiculous because I know it's not going to happen. And I'm saying that just in case, all the planets align and I'm struck by lightning and get Nostradamus predicting powers. I don't think that's going to happen. You need to start managing the sandbox you've got and making it, even if it's a ridiculously small or ridiculously whatever sandbox, that it's slightly more playable. So that all of us will happily wait for the next thing if there's something to do in
Yeah,
the meantime.
exactly. Like there's everybody knows that this at this point, like this game's gonna take forever. The experience that is currently there is good enough, like could be good enough. So just kind of make it a little bit
If they
better
could
as we go.
polish it, if
Yeah.
they could just polish it a bit, because I remember like,
I will
early
play
days.
a
I'm an
piece of
old man.
shit if it doesn't smell bad.
Exactly. I have literally played like I was when I was a kid and you broke, right? PlayStation 1. First game was Gran Turismo. I didn't have a memory card. So literally every time I turned off the game, I lost all my progress. I would earn all the tracks again every day because there was enough gameplay in there, even with only 4 tracks, to make it worth redoing everything you did the first that you shouldn't have to redo again in reality. because the gameplay loop was rewarding enough,
Yeah.
and that's all they really need.
I'll always go back to DayZ. People really played
Yeah.
DayZ a lot, and it was an
A
incredibly
lot.
buggy game, but at least there was a start and a finish, and there was
Rewarding
something
loop
that you did.
that was fun.
Yeah, there
And
were
you had that.
places where you can get rewards, right?
Mhm. And it's like one of those things that's always just kind of, oh, it always, like, except in my case, one of the things that, like I said, even if I was extremely bored, if you give people places where what they got points of interest, you give people a point of interest, even if it's just something that just spawns, even if you don't want to make an actual system, just have a spot on the planet where criminals spawn. And like you said, you're adding loot in the system. Have it where you kill them and they drop a cool gun that you can only get from killing them. One of their
Exactly.
shit guns, even. Just
Exactly.
you don't need much to keep people. Like you said, the derelicts having a box that's worth money, and they spawn randomly, so you never know. And maybe they'll have bad guys that are already looting. They're just sitting there, or animals, or even if it's just a jump scare where lights flicker on and flicker off and scare you and make you think somebody's shooting at you. Something stupid, but something that's in there that might be worth picking up. Because otherwise, oh, isn't that pretty? A ship that's destroyed on a planet side. Doesn't that look like Star Wars? That's nice,
What
but it's
is
not a game loop.
what? Why do you make money in Star Citizen right now? I'm asking you personally.
I really don't.
Okay.
Most of the stuff I do, I usually end up pulling out a ship, going to, either look at something or going to try to do a mission. And either I end up with a disconnection error or I get blown up or whatever. So I usually don't really make much money. But usually most of like you said, there's no incentive to make money.
The
I
point
usually want to do the mission just to complete a mission. I'm more after just completing a mission as opposed to even getting money from it.
the point I'm trying to make is that the main argument of like there is no point to the game. Well, you go make money and then you buy spaceships, right? All you need is an Aurora. You go out there, you make a bunch of money, then you buy the next spaceship, then you buy the next spaceship, then you buy the next spaceship. But there are very few spaceships in the game that give you a different gameplay experience than
Exactly.
others.
That is
There's
right on the
only
nose.
like there are 100 and something ships, like 130
They
ships
don't even really
actively
feel
in the
all
game.
that different anymore.
Exactly. So what
As
are
a
the
pilot,
differences
I'm a
they
pilot,
provide?
you know?
The
I'm a
differences they
pilot,
provide
and I
are
don't feel the difference. Exactly. Like,
are
and the ones that have
interior.
gameplay are paywalled usually.
Yeah.
And like, if there is something like, I don't have any of the mining ships, so I
Well,
can't
they're
mine.
not paywalled. You can earn them in the game.
Oof.
Yeah, okay, you can. And the fact that you haven't
Yeah,
completed a mission
hypothetically.
is probably more due to you than it is the game. Like it just I gotta lay it out there. The fact that you haven't completed the mission, most likely that's not the game's fault. Because
It could be my location. It could just be my location in the servers. I live in Jersey, so I'm probably as far away from the Texas and Cali servers, and that desync probably makes it worse.
maybe, but I gotta call you out there. You might just be bad at the game, is what I'm saying.
No, actually, I'm a combat guy, and the fight system is weird, but I can still get into a fight. But it's just always a bug. I don't usually die as in I got shot to death. It's usually, my ship instantly blew up. What happened? And it wasn't a person that's shooting me.
Okay, fine. But let me just say this. When you said you never completed a mission, you were exaggerating, right?
No, I was not.
It's got to be you. You can't not complete any
Now,
mission.
one thing I will tell you, this is something that's very personal. I am the bug finder. If there's a bug in something, it always finds me. That's
Okay.
just like I've got a weird gremlin on my
All
shoulder.
right.
So if I found holes in video games that you could just leave the map, that's just the way life goes for me.
Yeah.
Whenever there's a possibility, like I was just talking to the first caller. Me and him both have the same problem where we have to wipe our control mapping every time. Everybody else seems like, oh yeah, my maps always stay through. My joystick maps always stay through. We have to wipe them every time, and he's one of the first people I've met that's as bad as me, where I have to remap my controls every update. But there's always something, like I said, boxes that glitch through and don't want to be handed off to the guy.
Have
at
you
the
tried
end.
a bounty?
I haven't done the bounties yet. That's the
Okay,
one thing I
I think that's
tried
why everyone's like, "What the heck?" Because the bounties are like super easy. So,
Okay,
and that's
then
like the
that's,
main
well,
way you make money with missions.
Last time I couldn't leave the house, so I'm gonna try next patch. I'm gonna try to get out my app.
All right. Well, Dak, I guess we'll leave it here. Is there anything else you
Yeah.
want to add before we let you go?
I'm really sorry that you lost all your stuff.
Oh,
from
I
the
don't
mining
care.
ship, man.
I
That
don't
was
care.
painful to watch. I felt so bad for you, man. But
I don't care. There's
thank
no
you again.
purpose. There's no purpose. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
but
It is
well,
what
for
it
me,
is.
it's the time invested. Always, it feels you just want that little bit of dopamine from. Oh yeah, it went through.
Sure.
But yeah, I appreciate all the stuff you do, man, and keep it up.
All right, Dak. I'll be visiting Jersey in a couple weeks.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I tell you, it's dull here. I only
Yeah.
live here because family's here.
Yeah. I'm only visiting because family's there. All right, Dak. I'll see you soon, buddy.
Take care.
Bye now. All right, our next caller is Uri the Smoke. Uri, what's up?
Yo. What's up?
What's going on?
Hold on, I gotta mute you on the other thing. You was looping in. Alright. It's been a lot of calls. A lot of people talking.
Yeah. So what can you bring?
What do you the now the now and later.
Yeah.
What do you care about money? The
Money or
in,
mining?
in SC.
Sorry, you cut out.
Money. Like money in SC. Like why do you care?
I don't.
If we make money, and why don't you?
Because exactly what I said with the last caller is you can make all this money, but then let's say I go from a gladius to a saber, right? A light fighter to a medium fighter to a heavy fighter. The experience doesn't change much at all. Even if you go from a constellation to a Carrick, the experience doesn't drastically change for all of that time that you put in, right? And that's where I have issue with
Right.
like just earning money isn't enough. So the things that I am saying like, hey, build off of this is like the money that you spend should be on components that drastically change your experience and give you the ability to fight enemies that are more difficult than normal.
But
FPS weapons,
Okay.
same thing. Armor, same thing, right? Like there's no end game
Right.
components because they're all just slightly better than one another. So the experience doesn't change
Okay.
drastically.
all right. So before I say what I'm gonna say, no, all of this isn't really how I feel.
Okay.
Community in chat, you. I'm just hearing what you say and bouncing back. All right.
Yep.
What if the community doesn't want that? Like, listen to what you're saying, and I'm like, I think about when they raised up the prices on all the ship recalls and getting our ships back. Community didn't like the fact that it was a drastic difference in price between small ships and big ships. They didn't respond well to that. They didn't want to have to spend more money on getting the Carracks back sooner than later.
Yep.
And if that's just on now, what about later when they do the price refactor and they bring it, because they're going to bring it back. It's just, I don't think anybody's going to want it.
Well, what was the
they
argument
didn't
for
want
not
it
having
then.
that?
Stability.
Okay. What
Yeah,
I'm saying, what does that have to do with reclaiming your ships? I see the point you're trying to make.
Yeah,
Right.
money. Like, only thing we have to do in the game currently is make money. That is, but we don't have anything to spend the money on. So people are walking around with Jeff Bezos. Everybody Jeff Bezos in the game. Like, new players come in the game, everyone's welcomes them with throwing in-game money at them to spend on whatever ships you want, because they don't have anything to spend their money on, but to give it to new players.
I think that's kind of the
And
argument I'm making.
So I'm like,
that's a good thing. Like, yeah, help a new player out. But now the new player hasn't played the game to earn
right,
components.
because
or anything.
everyone's. Which
Is it so much to ask
it's
ask
not a
people to
bad
play
thing
the
help out
game?
new players. No one wants to play the game. You see how many people out here.
Why don't they want to play the game? Because there's no point. All I'm saying is make their point. Give it. That's what.
Bro, I compare Star Citizen, when I talk to my friends and whatnot, I compare it to the games that they play. And I'm like, you spend money on things to skip the game. You spend real world money on in-game items that help you skip progress. Because you don't want to play the game. And then I tell them about SC, and they're like, but there's nothing to spend money on, but the ships. And I'm like, you don't have to spend the money on the ships. You can get the ships in game. Like, we can play the game together, get the money to buy the ships. And they're like, but I want it faster. I want it now. And I'm like, why can't there be more missions to do now? And I'm like, why does making money matter that much? Why can't we just have fun, get the money together, and buy the ships later on?
Well, what do you define as fun?
Like, but oh, that's complicated.
Oh.
That's a very complicated thing for me because what I play Star Citizen for is just for fun. Like, I play the things I enjoy. I don't play the things I don't enjoy. I don't like mining.
What do you enjoy?
PvP is the only thing I do.
Okay.
Yeah,
PvP,
basically. Like,
PvP is like one of the few parts of the game that you're able to say what you're saying. Is I just want to have fun. It's like, okay, that's fine. And like, your opinion is your opinion. You're totally entitled to it, right?
Right.
But then what about everybody else that doesn't have anything to do?
True. And I see where they're coming from. Because when PvP is bad and too much desync, I don't even be bothered. I'll just low fly around whatever until I don't want to play the game no more.
Yeah.
Like, I have no problem with just flying around whatever. Because I enjoy the flight mechanics in this game that much.
Yeah.
But
you know there's more to the game than that, and there should be. Is that enough?
There should be, definitely.
Okay. That's all I'm saying.
No. I get that. And CIG fails the mark on delivering, like, the idea, the vision that they're trying to come up with, in a way, where, like, the new delivery missions, like, them in itself wouldn't be a problem if there were smaller things that led up to that people were like, okay, I can see the progression. Like, I think there's 2 large steps in between missions. And a lot of people need smaller steps, like for delivery missions where, well, why can't I just deliver a hot dog to somebody? All this to tie that in with the features that they're introducing. Small steps. Like, oh, they can eat in this game. Okay, let me accept this, like,
food service beacon.
Food service beacon that's locally to me to show me how to eat. Oh my God, there's eating mechanics. Wow. And tie that into going bigger to, I can deliver boxes. I can deliver content. Like, CIG takes too many big steps and not enough small steps when it comes to delivering the features, helping us see the vision that they're trying to lead to.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there, where they have these big, like, we're not going to add salvage because we want to do it big or do it right, and I don't know. They always have this later on big grand solution for every issue that's in the game, but it always just keeps getting kicked down the line. And that's, I think, there are much smaller solutions to make the game a little bit more interesting now, and that could be utilized that aren't as detrimental to the game's development.
I would say the development focus is too on big grandiose moments to bring new players in.
Yeah.
In these specific times and window points that they want to cultivate and organize.
Sure.
Like Xenothreat. Like, if Xenothreat they could have stretched it out over a longer period of time with smaller events that led up to it, and no one would have questioned anything. Like,
can't disagree with that.
Everything doesn't have to be grandiose, a nominee award winning to bring the player base in.
Yeah.
Like,
what I
Yeah.
what I really want out of the game is day in and day out goals.
You want dailies?
Not dailies. I don't want WoW in my Star
That
Citizen.
sounds like
you know?
dailies.
No, it's goals that
Right,
I want that sandbox sense of the game where there are like, this is why I'm saying, this is why I mentioned components and things that you can buy and things that maybe you can earn through reputation. Is I choose what I want to do and where I want to go. But the problem with Star Citizen is there isn't really an end game experience. Like, somebody defined end game for Star Citizen. Now, I know that that's hard to do, but the idea is that there's a start.
That's a good topic.
Yeah, and I think that'll maybe be a good topic for next week, is because we never have anything to talk about anymore, is there's a starting point, which is your Aurora, and with having nothing, right? But the end game is really, it can go obviously in many different directions, like being a PvP Chad or owning something and whatever, right? But there, in the current Star Citizen experience, and I really just want to focus on the now for this, is there is very little. I start here and I want to go there. And the ships tend to be what that is, but the issue with those is what I mentioned, is they don't really provide a different experience for you, so nobody's really reaching for them anyway.
Right. So, do you really want to talk about Endgame next week? Because I can save my comments for that.
You can bring a few comments. That doesn't mean that people won't disagree and we can't add to it next week.
True. Okay. All right, cool. So I've been trying to get some of my friends that I used to play Warframe with over in here to play with them, because they want me to come back, and I ain't never coming back to that game. and I'm like, but y'all can come over here, and they asked me about Endgame and things like this, because that's what things that they care about. I've never been an Endgame player, even though everyone looks at me as like one of the diehards go-tos for like in-game knowledge in any game I play.
Okay.
And I just, when I get into a game, I get deep into the community, deep into the lore, to learn whatever it is I need to learn to be the best of whatever I want to do. So what I'm telling you about SC and what there is to do, and like how I guess basically from what they tell me, I treat it like a fighting game.
Okay.
Because we're real
like
big
Tekken?
into that. And yeah, like,
okay.
Well, we went hard on Mortal Kombat.
Okay.
Like tournaments and all. And so I come into that SC, which is why I care about PvP the most.
I work with two Mortal
together.
Kombat pros.
That's what's up.
So you probably would know them, but I'm not gonna dox them here.
No, that's fine. That's cool. No worries. I don't get starstruck in. But what's my point? I lost it. The ships. In buying the ships, I really only care about the 300 series. It's my favorite ship, my go-to. Everyone likes to clown it. I welcome them battles, them fights, that smoke. I have no plans to move up to no bigger ship, gigantic ship, because I don't see the vision that SC has for why they're so important. Like, all the multi-crew, whatnot, cool talk, cool conversations. I don't see the point.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think you're proving my point.
Everyone makes their money.
Is that they're all the same, man. They don't provide any new experience. There would be a point if they provided a new experience, right? Would you, like, yeah, you still love your 300, but wouldn't you try something else to feel something new and experience something new occasionally?
Like, on my account, the only ship I have is my 325. And when I talk to everybody with the many ships that they have and whatnot, and they take me on tours on them, and I'm like, this is amazing, this is cool, I don't see why I need one. I can do all that stuff in my 325. or one of my other 300s that I bought in game. Because you play the game solo, and I play the game solo most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I don't see why I need this gigantic ship.
Yeah.
And I know what SC's planning to do in the future, but I don't see any baby steps that can give me confidence in we're going to get there. Outside of like was it Jesse Jackson or Jesse White that said like keep hope alive?
I'm losing it. I'm losing the
I see you
hope.
losing it. I see you. I see you.
I'm losing the hope if they don't care about the current experience. I get they have to make the game and it's an alpha, but they need to focus on the current experience as well.
Like, but yeah, because they're too focused on what they can put on a IGN commercial,
Yeah.
and that hurts.
Yeah, it does.
That hurts when you see that.
What can we do? What can we do but complain on a podcast that nobody's listening? But all right, Uriah, is there anything else you want to add? Because we actually added another caller to the end. I thought you were going to be the last one.
Oh.
We snuck in a former CIG developer at the end.
Oh, this could be big. Okay.
Yeah, sneaky.
Just some more points to like things I can think of to improve it, improve the experience. Like the bartender. Like I understand how important the bartender AI is to the game, and like why can't we have more characters like that starting out to improve the new like around the habs, people to talk to, answer some questions, just
like the javelin, how they were talking when you came up to them,
like the javelin guy, because like, that's the progression idea that I like. Okay, I see this now. The bartender AI, the javelin dude, like as soon as you walk into the javelin, somebody that'll talk to you. Why can't we have that around the habs? Like someone like the person at the front desk, soon as you walk out the hab, they like might wave to get your attention. And like for new players, let me go and talk to this person. For regulars, bye bitch, and keep on going. Like that, and then that's just stepping stones that we can see, so we don't have to argue about it. Okay, I see that. I recognize where we're going.
Yeah. That's an interesting one.
Oh.
All right. I don't know. Is there anything else before we let you go?
That's me.
Or is that it?
True. I got tons. I can keep on, but I'm curious about what this next person will say too.
Okay. Yeah. I am short on time, but I also want to definitely bring you in for. I think next week, 100%, we'll talk about what the end game of Star Citizen is, or what it should be, or why it doesn't exist. I think we can go on forever with end game. That is an interesting topic for this one.
Oh yes. That's
all right,
good.
Brother.
All right,
I'll let you go.
Just
Thank you
up.
so much. Yeah, man. I'm trying. Bye now.
Bye.
All right, our next and last caller is Jerry. Look at this Chad in your little icon there with your sunglasses. Am I jealous?
Yeah. Right? I always get concerned about my mic being shit.
No, I hear you.
Bad. Sorry, can't swear on YouTube, right?
You could swear on YouTube, just not in the first 30 seconds.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, man.
Hello. So I'll preface you because I always have to. I feel like I have to. Jerry used to work at CIG. He worked on the mission team. He developed is most notably developed the 890 jump mission and the mission where you
Price of Freedom one.
Price of Freedom, where you remove the Price of Freedom's the 890 jump, right?
No, Price of Freedom is the
Caterpillar mission. Yeah. So Price of Freedom as well. So the 890 jump mission and Price of Freedom. That's Jerry. That's what Jerry did. So he was a mission designer at CIG.
Yeah, mission designer. Yeah, quote unquote live game designer.
Yeah,
was the official title.
So that's what he did. Used to work at CIG. Now works at another company. And whatever.
Another company, yes. Yeah, I mean, to preface it, I'm obviously not going to break NDA. I'm not going to talk about anything that I know that I learned from at the company. I still have a lot of friends that work there and a lot of love for those guys. They're very hardworking people. They're not scamming you all. I can tell you that straight up. It is not. They are not. It is not a scam. They are working very hard.
Yeah.
But I thought this topic was really cool. There's a lot to discuss. I didn't make any notes. I figured we just wing it. Ratchet and Clank's just finished downloading, so I'm not going to keep you for very long because I want to go play that.
Okay.
But I figured a lot of this was to do with like the small improvements that could be made in the game now. I mean, I'm still obviously a big fan of the project. I want it to succeed. Like, it's so integral to the entire games industry. Like, Kotaku or wherever poo-poo on the project at times with their hit pieces, but realistically, this is something that no one else is trying to do. So it's very cool to now be able to see from the outside in.
Yeah.
The first caller when he was like, "Oh, they are adding new features to existing things," and I thought he mentioned the FPS missions, and I was like, "Oh, he's going to mention monster closets," and then he mentioned the fact that it's in a cave.
Yeah.
It being in a cave isn't a new feature. Monster closets is a new feature. I don't know if that's in game. I know it's been on the roadmap. I don't know if it's still on the roadmap.
It is checkmarked on the roadmap as complete in 3.13, but we don't.
Monster closets are a new feature, right? That's something where you can then reinforce an area. So if you go into a bunker, the mission is kill 10 guys, or let's say it's kill 30 guys and only 10 spawn. You then have a way to funnel in more enemies at the same location. That is a new feature. Putting the mission in a different location is content. It's not a feature. There's a difference. In terms of but it's like you said, right? What low-hanging fruit could be grabbed to make the current experience more fun? For me, I think the biggest thing that I want to see in the game to really make the now better is reputation rewards. The Vandal Mask event was so pivotal for people being able to earn an item in game through doing an activity. That needs to be a thing, in my opinion, and I don't know how far along that system is. The dream for me in this game is to be a bounty hunter. I want to be a bounty hunter. I'll like primarily PvE because I'm garbage at PvP. I'll never be good at PvP in ships. But just the ability to unlock more difficult missions via a reputation system, and then at the end of it achieve something, should, in my opinion, be one of the things that we move towards first, right?
Yeah. And now you and I talked about that personally. Yeah. Can I stop you there a little bit?
Sure. Before I start ranting on about stuff,
Yeah, it's fine though. We talked about that and how, like I said, what would it take to make that happen? And you said it would be a company-wide effort, right? Like that is not something to make getting an item through a mission isn't as simple as we the players may make it seem like it is.
Yeah, I think that's the disconnect, right? It isn't just, if you want it to be real, like in the game, there needs to be cross-discipline effort. Now on your missions, you need a UI section that displays what you're getting at the end of that thing, like some other quests do. And then you need like audio support. You need someone to actually make the thing that you get at the end of the mission. Like, it isn't as simple as just add this system.
Yeah.
And one of the things that, CIG
one developer
always stresses to people, it's not one developer makes the whole thing. And like CIG always stressed to people, you have to prioritize. So it's like, it's thinking about where the priorities are at the minute for the low-hanging fruit versus where they could be. I don't realistically know. I'm a bit disconnected from the project now because real life and new job. I think that's something that would be for me as a player, as someone who likes the project, that's where we should be going. Like you mentioned last year when we had the boxes in derelicts that you could like get and salvage that would give you 100k. And
Jerry
you
took this from all of you, just so you know. Jerry took this from you guys. Jerry took these boxes away.
It was a bug. They weren't supposed to be there. Don't throw me under the bus like that. I come on this show and participate and you do that to me. No, but like, right, it's the variation, right?
Yeah.
The variation is kind of what you want to see, which is the thing that you could consider the now elements, right?
Yeah.
Like the things we have now, how do we expand upon them to make them really cool? Like a counter mission to an existing mission is something that could probably be done now. But I mean, and I hate to say it, to preface it, like there's so much cool stuff, but a lot of it is hindered by the server.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned the missions I've worked on. When they work really well on a fresh server, they work really well. But as soon as the
Jerry and
server
I
starts
tested it
going
one
down, it's
time on a
like
good server, and it was a crazy good
it was
experience.
awesome, right?
Yeah.
It was awesome, and there's so much cool stuff on the horizon. And to me, I think when you talk about the not the now, the then, the later on down the line,
Yeah.
once the server stability and stuff and the server performance is top notch, I think you'll see some really cool stuff start coming out.
Yeah.
But
I
in the
think we all
meantime,
know that.
what we need is things that like aren't
Grab your
as
attention in
impacted
the
by that.
meantime. Yeah, it just
Yeah, in the
just
meantime, yeah, like when you go just to cut off. Sorry, one second.
yeah,
Like
it's
when you
fine.
go to a cargo terminal, you can do stuff at that cargo terminal, and there's a lot less risk of server interaction. And we saw an ISC like the preview a few weeks ago about the hacking thing, right? The hacking thing could be so cool. You could inject that into like other mission elements. There's a lot of potential there, and that's further potential for the now because you already have kind of the hacking stuff where you put a chip in,
Yeah.
what have you. It's getting those easy wins in that are going to be the biggest wins. But I think the then stuff, the stuff that's later on down the line, is at the moment beholden to where the server is at. And I think once the
course.
server is fine, this game is going to flourish so much because knowing the people that work on it, they work so hard. There's a lot of very smart people at CIG, and they have a lot of very cool ideas. And yeah, there's a lot of future potential that I think myself and everyone else is still very excited for. But again, the low hanging fruit for the now is what we need to achieve. Your wording of it was perfect.
Yeah, and I'll tell you where the thing that you would like you popped in right away and talked about like the Vandal Mass type stuff. That is on the roadmap for Q1 2022.
What specifically? The objects, the object rewards for missions.
Not object rewards for missions,
Rewards?
but their ability to track statistics for players individually and be able to reward players individually based off of those statistics. So I guess
Yeah,
that does
that's
mean
gonna be
rewards
like
for missions, but in general that is like the I guess the macro tool to make all that stuff happen.
that's the thing I want now. I want to be a bounty hunter, and I want to go through a bounty hunters guild. And when I get to level 3, I don't just want on my Moby Glass it says I am level 3, and I take a screenshot of that and put it on Reddit. I want to have a skin for some kind of ship or a helmet that only I can get, or some form of armor that only I can get because I have done that bounty hunter.
I achieved this.
Bounty hunter trail.
Yeah.
I achieved this. That's where I'm at with this. And I mean, you said about like endgame. I know you're going to discuss it next week. I don't feel like SC is a traditional MMO, right? There isn't an endgame. Like, it's a living. It's always described as a living, breathing universe. Even when you've achieved the thing you want, you still want to live in this world and have those meta. What do you call them? Not meta interactions, diegetic interactions, whatever we call them. I've forgotten the word because I don't know. My
Emergent
brain's
gameplay.
farting. Emergent gameplay. There you go. Yeah, like even when you've achieved your bounty hunter thing, right? You still want to have that emergent gameplay, and that's again another thing that, like the experience you had the other day where you came out of the bunker with Pakilla, and then you had the PvP group coming at you, and you went, "That's my Star Citizen moment," right?
Yeah.
You will get more of that when when we have it's server meshing, when that comes online, and when we can have bigger player counts. And I think that's the stuff that will happen when the servers are there. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do in the short term.
Yeah. And just to be clear, just between you and I, is the whole server meshing thing and the whole server performance and all that stuff, that is like, I totally understand that. And I totally understand that, like, these are things that are going to take time and it's going to take a little while to happen. It's the when you're arguing now versus later, that again, like, that is the later, and that is something that I'm willing to wait for. It's
prime example, right?
What I do while I wait is what I want to be addressed.
Yeah, I hope that something more will come from this. You mentioned obviously one of the missions I made, the Price of Freedom one. was the first mission where, I mean, you did it a little bit in the Kovalex investigation,
Yeah.
where you interact with a data pad and get information and use that data.
Yeah.
That's something that doesn't require a lot of stuff on the server end that could be used in other ways. So
Yep.
it's stuff like that, I assume, is what you're trying to get at, but maybe
Yeah.
didn't have a prime example of, like, we've got this scenario where we use this thing, now we need more scenarios where we use this thing. Like, harvestables from the planets.
Yeah.
Give us something to do with harvestables other than sell them for 10 UEC. Like, if
They
you,
do
I don't
affect
know what...
your actor status. So, like, I think you can eat one and it heals you, and I think you eat one and it gives you more stamina. So there are
Who
things.
do you know that has eaten a harvestable from a planet as
See,
part
it's
of
still
the
like
actor status
hearsay.
that
Like, I don't
saved you,
even. It's still like hearsay. Like,
you
I
buy
don't
a
even know.
burger, you buy
Yeah.
a burger, you buy a bar, and you buy a drink from the flipping rest stop, and then you go. Like, give us something else to do with harvestables. But then
Yeah.
it comes back to the prioritization, right? Who do we have to take off something else to then do something with harvestables? What pre-existing systems could tie immediately into that to give you a win, right? Well, maybe that's not one that would. Maybe the low-hanging fruit on Hurston isn't actually the gameplay low-hanging fruit that you want.
Yeah. Exactly. And for what do you think? This coming from a developer, not coming from a CIG developer, of course, of the idea of systems have been put into the game. I think I mentioned FPS components. I don't think they're called some components. I can't remember what they're called. Attachments. Like FPS attachments that we only have a few of them in the game, and they don't drastically affect. There aren't tier levels of them. There's not A grade, B grade, S grade. There's none of that kind of thing. Obviously, that isn't just a game designer decision. There's a props guy who has to make this thing, and so on and so forth. So it's not as simple as I'm making it sound either. But to me,
you need audio for the grenade attachments. You need
exactly,
the prop for the grenade attachments. You need the actual grenade to shoot out of the grenade attachment. You need a balancing pass on how much damage it does, what the velocity is, how far it can go. Does it penetrate armor? How is it effective for ships? Like, all that sort of stuff.
There you go. Like, this is why the player who plays the game can't always be communicating how it should be developed. Because, like, that's something that, again, it does seem like it's something that should be done. You put it in this, like, but as a game developer and as a player, Jerry, now let me ask you that. You gave me the reason why not. There has to be a reason why also. Why yes, you know? And that is a system that is in the game. It doesn't require any new tech to be built out. It doesn't require anything that somebody hasn't done already and already knows how to do. Is that something that, like, am I...
Yeah,
basically what I'm asking
I know
you...
what you're referring to.
Am I
the new
on...
attachments, right, on weapons.
Yeah, they're already there. All they would have to do is create the new sound, the new art. All they would have to do. But there are tiers to subcomponents on mining lasers. There's tiers to subcomponents on ships. That would be another thing that you would like to see build out and be kind of
I
have
get
meaning.
your point, but again, it's another prioritization call, right? Like, if you say, I don't know, let's say there's an assault rifle, and let's say there you could have a laser sight that you attach to the assault rifle, and then you can shoot from hip fire and your accuracy is improved. That's a small gameplay improvement for anyone that's doing FPS.
Oh, fuck, I want to ask you a question so bad, but I think it puts you in a bad spot.
If it's going to put me in a bad spot, please don't ask me. But, like, that to me, in the current state of the game, just having an attachment that increases hip fire accuracy probably doesn't outweigh whatever the person that would make that is working on now. Like,
I disagree, but this is why I want to ask you, but I don't know what to fucking ask. Here's what I...
Let's not ask it on a live show then. Just
No. I don't think it would get you in trouble, though. My question would be, are the same people that make new weapons the same people that would make the new weapon attachments?
Oh, I don't know. I couldn't even tell you that.
Okay, yeah.
It's a different department. Like,
good, because that's my question. Because I don't need new weapons in the game. There are plenty. So why not start going with something to work towards for those new weapons?
I don't know. That
Yeah.
is a very good question. One which I cannot answer.
Yeah, I mean that's just kind of where
Yep.
I'm at with Star Citizen is we've inserted a lot of the variety in weapon types and component types and things like that. And I think like one of the low-hanging fruits that I would prioritize if I as a player over adding more of those types of things would be creating more variety. I think my main theme
But okay,
in Star Citizen is
let's say you
variety.
have that variety though. Let's say you have that variety. Let's go back to whatever. Let's say you've got a assault rifle that's got a grenade launcher, but you can get a level 2 grenade launcher that deals more damage, right?
Yeah.
How do you propose you get that? Other than just buying it. And this goes back to the point of why I feel at the
Rep.
moment, for the now, it real rep how? Like the rep
Yeah.
for gating buying objects and buying things?
Yeah, which doesn't exist
Because
in the
that's
game.
very similar. It's very similar to what I'm saying, right? About having the rep built up through missions to
Yep.
get an item.
Yeah.
And I think we're probably in agreement that that is the next step that we'd like to see
Yep.
happen in the game. Like that.
Yeah.
That's going to be the coolest thing. I think when that drops, a lot of people are maybe going to come back to SC that have tapered off over a while, and they're going to be like, okay, now I've got this, and this thing that I can work towards. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Agreed. Me and Jerry have had lots of conversations about it. Nothing. The amount of money you make doesn't matter if there's nothing. You have to be able to work towards things too, not just make money
Yeah.
to buy things. You know. So.
But that, yeah, and then it goes back to the whole. Doesn't like with the letterboxes, right? You meme that I had it removed.
Yeah. No,
But
it was multiple
realistically, when a
devs that were
dynamic-
watching
when a
me
dynamic-
get
yeah.
it, you know, and they
But
were
when
like,
a
"Whoops."
dynamic economy comes in, you can't have something like that. Like the premise would be, okay, you do these missions and you get these items, but then you still need to keep doing it because you've got this dynamic economy of like fuel prices going up, or maybe you have to pay to lease something in your homestead or whatever.
Mhm.
And then it isn't just you're not just coming back to get the next armor set from a mission. You're coming back to maintain yourself within this universe.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that SC probably doesn't have an end game, because it's not like WoW where you get the best rogue gear.
Yeah.
You get the thing you want and then carry on living in that universe. But that's like the then thing, right? That's
Sure.
for your ATC topic of now and then. That's then. For me, I just want to be able to be a bounty hunter and get something cool for doing it.
Yeah.
That's what I want now.
Yeah.
So
I think
bad.
the main theme is to I need the distractions, and I need distractions while I'm waiting.
What you want right now, what you want is so that when the server plays up or when you 30k, you don't feel as bad because you feel like I've still made some progress towards this thing.
Yeah.
That's what you want right now.
Exactly. And it can be rep that gives me something, or it can be working towards a certain component. It doesn't matter.
Because
You need a reason to get back on the horse. Because
when
right
you do
now I
mining runs
don't.
and you go to sell it, you'll like do a mining run, go and sell it, and get like 150,000 UEC, right? Great. Then you'll go do another mining run, and maybe it'll 30k, and you'll be like, well, what was the point of me doing any of that?
Yeah.
Whereas if you had a rep thing tied to mining, you'd be like, okay, well, at least the first run pushed me forwards. Now I get back on the horse and do that again.
Back
Because
on the
even though
horse.
it 30k'd, the next one is pushing me up to the next little thing that I want to get to.
I think that's a good place to stop for today. And then you could play Ratchet and Clank. I think that defines everything. That is my whole definition of what we need. Just reasons to get back on the horse. It doesn't matter if it's a ship skin. It doesn't matter if it is a gold med pen. For me, I just want reasons to get back on the horse.
It will come. It will come. As you say, we're at a point at the minute where it isn't there. I feel like as soon as we get the rep rewards and mission rewards, it's going to be a big game changer, which I hope comes quick. And then after that, it's like, then the server tech is the thing that it's like, we need the server tech to now get into the end game, the end game of the next then.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's awesome. I enjoy chatting about this stuff.
Yeah.
I hope I don't get in trouble for it because it's just really fun to talk about this stuff. I'm still very much hoping that this is the dream game. I still want it to be the dream game. Like, it's super cool.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it is what it is.
All right, Jerry. I think we'll let you go. Thank you so
much for
man.
having me on, Mike. Take it easy.
Thanks for reminding me.
Reminding you of the dream.
Well, no, I mean, just making my thoughts more realistic in how complicated they are to implement. Because most of the time, game devs don't come on the show.
Game dev ain't easy, bro.
All right,
It
brother.
ain't easy.
All right, man.
Take it easy, man. Have
Take
a good
it.
one. Later.
Bye. All right, guys. That's it. That's it for the show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed this one, and I'm excited that we actually have a next week topic too of what endgame might be like. I think that's pretty interesting. We touched on it a little bit today, but I think we can dive more into it next week. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week. If you are watching on Twitch and you didn't catch the whole show, it'll be up on YouTube later today. Vice versa. If you're watching on YouTube, you can always join the live show. Everybody who called in, these are not just my friends or something. These are people who I don't even know, and anybody can call in and get into the queue as long as your mic is like decent enough and we don't know you to be a problematic member of the community or something. So thank you so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.